not something I clearly understand.
Yeah.
Right? It's meant to like lead the mind to get into some cool ass shit.
Yeah,
But
totally.
mostly, but even I shouldn't even say that because that's a way of understanding what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Right? But I mean,
well, reading's weird. It really depends on what goes on in your mind when you read. Because like what I've noticed about myself that's helped me read a lot is that when I read, if I don't question whether or not I understood or realize like follow along the thread of the story, if I'm just reading the words but not really like picking up everything, I'll go back and like read that shit or whatever. But to always kind of
any book
kind of like keep in mind with that,
the good parts I go over and over and over and over, and I like really like and I try and get like it on multiple.
Sometimes I'll read it and be like, I don't know what the fuck this means at all. I don't understand it, but I'm gonna read it and then I'm gonna read it again and then even just not even You
may read it 20 times, and then you go and ask the big smarty pants professor, because I've done this, right?
Yeah.
And you say, what is it? And they say something and you still didn't quite catch all of it. But you're like, but if you're not a dork, you're stoked. You're like, oh, I thought I got all this out of it, and now you just put a whole new angle that I wasn't even aware of, and now maybe I can try that out again next time.
Yeah.
Right? But most people are weird.
It's because words, man. Like
words, man.
You know, like there's words that you don't understand. You know, like when you read, like when you're just some normal person that it's not in the words on. It's like you just read shit and you're just like, I don't know what that word
across
means.
words.
But like,
all my guys that I respect, part of like 1/20th of that respect is that they use words in awesome ways and they teach me words.
Yeah.
Any good writer that I like has taught me lots of words.
Yeah.
Seriously. Fuck, David Foster Wallace, holy shit, that guy was famous for being a dick about words, right? Totally interrupting the gig of the story. But luckily, most of his stories, the whole way through, you're already knowing, like, this is just one long interrupting of the story, right? We're modern writers. We don't give a fuck about your stories. Go back 100 years. They got stories for you, right? You can read all the classic ones. You know what I mean? There's not that many, actually, right?
Yeah,
People have made games and jokes about this. Like, not that many stories. Let's start doing neater stuff, right? Life is neater than just spinning our yarns now. Right?
Yeah, totally, yeah.
So, but I'll spin yarn. You got to spin a real yarn to keep the reader from.
I think there's always been like a small percentage of people that are always like that continuously, like throughout generations. You know what I mean?
Like what?
Well, like, I mean, there's always the people that write simple stories,
sure.
And then there's always the people that are like, let's do something more with this, and because that's why there's
you got
interesting books from all over the place. You know?
Exactly. You got your Homers. They're probably like 100 or 200 years apart. But anyways, you got your Homers doing the Odyssey and stuff, and if that was a real guy, and you got your Aristophanes doing ripping satire, shit that was so scandalous it was locked away by the Catholic Church. Right? Like nowadays, you could say you got like your Stephen King. Stephen King is he's prolific. He writes all stuff, but there's nothing deep or complex about his
just
shit. He's
creating characters.
He tells stories. He tells stories, right?
Yeah.
And then you have your George Saunders and David Foster Wallace. And me. And you got me. I'm starting. I'm trying to game here. I'm starting off all game mode.
Yeah.
Right? Like.
So, there's a lighter. This is what I. you want to hear what I wrote? I wrote it this morning, like on the whim or whatever.
That's a fine way to write shit.
But it's on.
Inspiration grabs you.
I don't even know if it's on track or fucking whatever. It was just something that I was like reading and I was like, I just want to like try and explain this so I can like understand it. You know what I mean?
It's on the track you made, and luckily with subjects like this, that's why I'm like, check out an old source, check out a new source, so that you can then afterwards talk with more credibility about the subject than anybody else. Right?
Yeah, totally.
So what's funny is because the subject is kind of nebulous, it doesn't have like a big capital T truth answer.
Yeah.
You can go off on your own track as long as it's not completely buffooned up. But if you read an old and you read a new source, odds are 90% you won't get buffooned up, see? And so you can just explore now with the subject and be free about it.
Yeah.
But okay, so now my crap getting in your way.
It's an example. It starts with like a blanket.
Let's smoke some weed here. Let's get some weed going on here. Take a fucking hit.
All right. This is a fat bowl, man.
I don't know how to pack them shitty. It's a cool habit. I used to be around, back in the day when you got kind weed, it wasn't like nowadays, right? I'm talking the Stone Ages, man. You might not, you were like shitting in your diapers and shit. But, I had access to good weed. There was still good weed, but it was very rare, right? And it was expensive as fuck. And so, like, most of my friends would pack the most weak little bowls.
Yeah,
and
I've seen those, yeah.
It's like, I would always try and teach them the opposite. What are you doing, dude? What are we here for?
More.
We're here to, I've always been more about that shit, as far as, capital resources stuff.
Yeah.
We're here to, are we here to, are we here to party? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What? Blather. It's morning blather. I got nothing to do today. I got this show tonight.
Nice.
Not gonna write. You know what I'm doing?
I got work.
I'm fucking with myself. I'm going through the book.
Yeah.
And I'm finding shit to change. Right?
Why are you doing that? Second edition or what?
Because it's gonna have to be another. Yeah. And once I get another
Revised.
I'm probably just gonna send a new copy in, right?
Uh-huh.
And it is a bad habit, but it's done. These things are done.
Yeah. Are you gonna say it's the second edition?
Here's what I did. I was flipping through something. And maybe I shouldn't do this. I gotta stop. It's a bad thing.
It's endless. So you're never gonna.
That's the problem. I'm checking out some stuff. I'm looking through Annie. At one point, she says, these woeful times, right? And that's it. Woeful times, and she goes on, blah blah blah. And I was like, woeful. I was like, I could have come up with a way cool Annie-er word than woeful, right? I could have come up with some weird thing that tried to kind of so she's these woeful times. So I was these are not what I'm going with because I got interrupted. I was like these sliggy times, and I was like sliggy. Nah, I don't like that. It's a little too I don't know, hip hop fresh. I don't know, but I was thinking like that, change the name, get it more Annie-like.
Uh-huh.
That's what I did, and I was like, that's a bad. Should do that, right? But if it's something and I come up with something cool, then why not do it? I just don't want it to get in the way of when I start feeling Ruth tomorrow, basically.
Yeah.
Well, depending on how hungover.
Yeah. Totally.
But
Yeah. Anyways.
No, Wolf's not bad. But I just started going it's like you can always improve upon a thing, right?
Yeah, of
right?
course, but not really.
A book can never be
I
perfect.
if you're just talking about changing a word, you're not really making something better. You're just changing the experience.
It gets a little more Annied in there, right? All of her weird word choices help make her the weird character she is too.
Yeah.
So. But it's nothing that needs to be done, and I got to be careful. So I'm probably not going to do that now. I'm just going to leave it alone and move on to feeling Ruth.
Yeah.
Probably what I should do. But anyways, there's nothing wrong with it. But you're right. It's endless.
Yeah.
The endless thing. But anyways.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So.
All right.
Should I read this shit or not? I don't know. This is what I wrote.
No,
Fuck
you
it.
should be real self-conscious.
Yeah.
And so listening to the things that you sent to me, now I understand. You're like, oh, the voice was. I didn't realize even at first that it was your voice, right?
Really? Cool. That's what I'm trying to do.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Because it's a very cool voice, right?
I'm trying to change.
So is it that you feel that you're just not cool enough to own up to the voice that you want to do? Is that what's going on? That voice has a lot of stuff behind it, right? And then somebody's gonna meet you and you're just be like, I'm Brennan. Hey, what's up, guys? Let's get.
No, it's just me in my most honest moments by myself, man. That's what it is, really.
See, I'm pretty fucked up, dude. I like my fucked upness, so comfortable with it. It's not easily defined, that's for sure.
Yeah.
You've hung out with a lot of people that are easily defined cool, right? And so they put some shit in your head that you measure certain things against now without even realizing it. That stuff doesn't even register to me, right?
Yeah.
Because I guess I'm like a parent, and I'm like, that's not cool at all, right? What's cool? Go out and make something of yourself. You know what I mean? Go out and help. Go and help someone, right? Like, I'm gonna do something on this world, right? Don't be so you're doing the right thing in life, and it's totally rare. And when you do it better, when you get braver about it, people should fuck with you, and you should have to live up to shit. You should have to live up to certain. I don't know about cool hip hop. Hey,
I'm not really.
But you should have to live up to certain. But you should have to live up to certain templates that are beyond you. That's what growing is about.
Yeah,
right?
I can see that. Yeah,
you mimic it at first, and then you start to fit into it, and then it starts to become you, right?
Yeah.
Just make sure that it's something that's not so cookie cutter.
Yeah,
right?
I'm not trying to be cool.
Did that work? Did I give you the parental advice?
I guess. I don't know.
It doesn't matter. If your conscious didn't hear it, your subconscious hears it.
Yeah.
Right? So, it's a win-win, especially when we're smoking weed. It's cool. But anyway,
No, you're right. I have a lot of.
I'm not trying to tell you to be a Satanist, because I'd be good at that shit too. I bet.
I have a lot of self-conscious issues with myself.
I know. That's probably good, especially for art, right? If you want to really be a good artist, be self-conscious about it, right? Like, don't be like smearing across it and going like, I'm fucking Basquiat, right? Like, whoa, great. We need 100 billion more of you, Basquiat.
Yeah, fuck that shit.
Okay.
Anyways.
Well, now your shit.
Okay, yeah. So this is what I wrote this morning. When asking what makes a thing beautiful, it relies.
Hold on.
All right.
I'll give you the full attention here.
All right, it's an example. All right, I don't know. I'm just trying to.
Just read it.
When asking what makes a thing beautiful, it relies on interpretation from the viewer.
Wait, hold on.
You know I'm a total dick.
This.
I knew I'm not gonna get through this whole thing.
You will, but you know I'm a total dick, right? And so we get that. So and that's and you're a nice guy because you can deal with my. That's pretty much the only people that get through the filter is that they understand I'm actually a really nice guy, but total dick.
No, you're gonna tear it apart.
So,
you're gonna tear it apart.
Nope, that's not what I'm gonna do at all. In fact, that's awesome that you think that way, and you still want to share it. So here's what's weird. Think about this. You say you're self-conscious, right? Or something like that, like whatever you said, like. Yeah. But what's weird is, that's a pretty maybe you're not as much as you think, because this is pretty and you're sharing it with me. You're already saying like, oh, he's gonna rip it apart. So think about that for a minute. Yeah. So what does that mean? Right?
Like with
some people,
there's things I know that I have
some
issues
people,
with.
and maybe what that really means is that a lot of people who, and you should be hyper conscious about what you're sharing with them, right? And then some people,
that's true, actually.
You'll realize in the world are like they're right there on that journey, right? They're on the same journey, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And you don't. I'm sure you're like, oh, how's it going to rip me apart? But there's no self-consciousness going on right now. It's exactly how it should be. And when I give my book to my peers, right, like who are teachers, and I'm like, oh man, what are they going to say? How are they going to get it? Right? Like, that's part of the doing it right. Okay, that was my interruption. See?
Okay. When asking what makes a thing beautiful, it relies on interpretation from the viewer and the intention of whatever it is to be determined beautiful. For example, a clear bag of dicks cut off from various men would be hard to define as beautiful.
What an example.
I'm not done.
Sure it would be.
It would smell terrible, and give enough time, they would rot and eventually meld together into a disease-ridden soup. But when considering the source and reasoning behind the bag of dicks, it could be determined as beautiful. Say all those dicks belong to various child rapists, and if those dicks were never detached from the user, there would be hundreds of more victims, right? So I guess this would be like a beauty of justice or some shit like that. But it could be flipped in a way that there is a still life oil painting of this bag of dicks, and it's incredibly well done. The color mixture, the composition, the way the paint is laid, an incredible work of art with the looks of an intellectual beautification. But going back to the source of things, let's say this painting was done by a woman, and she got this bag of dicks from her previous boyfriends who did her no wrong. They simply were just not into her. She's a bit crazy due to being sexually abused as a child and has become a serial dick snatcher.
Well, then we love that painting for all of ever more history, and it ends up
is it beauty still?
More than the highest price Van Gogh eventually.
Yeah. Technically, it could be looked at as beauty, like from the eyes of like another inspiring dick snatcher or whatever. But
going on.
That's all I got. That's all I got.
Okay, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go sentence by sentence. So now read the first sentence.
Okay. The first is
Watch how this works.
It's just blanket station.
This is how it works.
When asking what makes a thing beautiful, it relies on interpretation from the viewer and the intention of whatever it is to be determined beautiful.
Okay, hold on. There, we'll stop there. So, and the intention of whatever it is. So we've already, we're not talking about a lot of shit now. So because we're not talking like a rose.
A rose has intention.
No, a rose doesn't have
intention. It does, but not like consciously. I'm not talking about conscious intention.
What do you think intention means? You're misusing the word.
I'm probably misusing the word,
Yeah.
but it is.
Let's tell me, what do you think
thing.
intention means? How are you trying to stretch intention into the idea of a rose?
I guess what you could say is that I'm trying to personify the rose and what it's like.
Then we're already not talking about the rose. Now I want you to realize this.
Yeah.
Then we're still not even talking about the object anymore. We're talking about the subject who's now
well, I guess
who's now what's it called? Grafting things onto the object, grafting their own selves.
There's an issue
and it's
right
also
there.
called anthropomorphification, right?
Yeah.
Anthropomorphization, right? You're grafting your own stuff onto the object, so that's still you. So that's not the object. So now it's yours. It's your intention of the rose, right? So it's not the rose's intention, right? So what I'm wondering is, like, what does the rose have to do with it, though? But what's weird is you're not really. This is more talking about a very limited range of okay.
When I say intention, though, I mean like it is as it is within itself, like like it being red and emitting like the color red and the properties and the form.
But that's not in and of itself either. That's all coming from you.
The form and color? I guess. Well, I guess the way I interpret the
the mosquito's going to come by and see the red rose in an ultraviolet glowing purple. It's not going to see the red.
So
right?
The
it's
form.
going to see something different.
I guess just the form, and then.
No, but honestly, when you see the rose, it's not just the form that you're finding beauty, is it? It's that deep, rich, beautiful red of the rose, right? That's what you're also finding beautiful.
True.
It's also the harmony of the petals. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so next sentence.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like the filter that Well,
this is all
the interpretation.
This is exactly what needs to be done. There's nothing you got to realize.
Yeah.
If you were, this is exactly how it works, right? Unless you're a dick, this is how it's supposed to work. You're like, hey, here's a sentence. It's kind of weird, and I go, this is kind of weird. Let's delve into it, and I'm good at that, right? And then we start exploring shit. Dude, that's how it works. It's not, hey, dude, here's the truth. And I'm like, okay, I worship you. That's not how it works. Fuck that. Next sentence.
For example, a clear bag of dicks cut off from various men would be hard to define as beautiful.
Okay.
It would smell terrible, and given enough time, they would rot and eventually meld together
even rot is
into a disease-ridden soup. Yeah,
okay,
interpretation.
And but then you go on to fuck with that notion. So you're setting up like the phony argument and
the reality
then you're
of a clear bag
down,
of dicks. That's
right?
what I'm trying to do.
And
like the reality behind it. It wouldn't be very pleasant,
See, it's bound up in that term, the reality, and
like real
but
dicks.
then you already said in a photograph.
No, like real dicks,
so
like
real dicks
guys.
There.
Yeah.
I don't know. In Body Worlds exhibit? So watch how I do this, right? Like a body split open with all its guts hanging out. You're like, that's disgusting. And I'm like, I paid $20 to go and see that for 2 hours.
That's what I mean.
Right?
It's based on the interpretation.
But okay, so we already got that notion that anything that's seemingly gross or ugly or whatever, there can be easily a beauty in it. And I'm going to say now, what I'm shooting for is even going on. I feel like I'm trying. It's going on even underneath that, so that yes, the bag of. In fact, you already proved that the bag of dicks, even sitting there before you, this is getting watched. This is because we're not. You got to open it up. So the bag of dicks sitting there before you, if you can even imagine it, but if in a photograph, but the history behind this and all the heartache and all the pain. Imagine it as a painting, or whoa, imagine this scene in a movie. This is the most crazy scene of the movie. Like, wait, but that means that actually just that bag of dicks in front of you, it's all that. It is all that. But you have to apply your mind. But since we're talking about beauty, well, that's on the mind already, right? It's not out there.
Yeah.
Okay, next sentence. We might have shot the rest of it out here.
No. Well, I'm only talking about the reality of it actually being like right here.
Same thing.
You know what I mean? Like that's different.
You see what you're doing? You do this shit. You're trying to use reality as this you're hiding behind this notion of reality, and there's no such thing. The reality is, if I see that bag of dicks and I imagine it as a Van Gogh painting, and I see here, wrap your mind around this. Here's the key part. If I see that bag of dicks and I imagine it as a Van Gogh painting, and it triggers, it's all that matters, and it triggers the feeling that, oh, that's beautiful. You can't come along and tell me, oh, it's a bag of dicks, that's not beautiful. They'll be like, oh, you just don't get it.
But that's a different experience.
Wait, you see that? I say you just don't get it. Now, who cares about a bag of dicks? So it's a rusty old Chevy in the field, and I go along and I'm like, fuck, man, that is so fucking beautiful. And you go on and go, it's a fucking rusty old piece of shit.
Doesn't work.
Right. See what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, same thing. Doesn't matter. Bag of dicks, rusty old Chevy,
That's different.
Sistine Chapel. Right? Sistine Chapel. You know what helps with this conversation?
What?
Try and imagine an orc's version of beauty. So I show the orc the rose. Here's a beautiful rose, dog. And the orc's like, rose? It's no good, right? And dog looks like at a big chunk of like rotting cow leg, and he's like, beauty, right? Or he looks, or even better, he shows you his wife, right? And she's all big, they got tusks, right? Yeah. And he's like, beautiful, right? Like, so
yeah, it's a filter.
Next sentence. So you're not hitting on anything. So why?
Well, it's the senses.
What's going on
it's
beneath that? What's going on beneath that then? What's the process coming from that makes you find it beautiful? You're getting there. Next sentence.
Yeah.
I don't think you got it.
I don't think. I was just like trying to figure out the comparison of it. But when considering the source and reasoning behind the bag of dicks, it could be determined as beautiful. Like, say all those dicks belong to various child rapists. And all those dicks were never detached.
I don't know why that would make it beautiful, though. Actually, but
well, in a sense, because you could go into beauty in different ways.
Something
There's
about justice
different
being beauty.
cracks.
But I don't know if cutting off a bunch of dicks is justice.
I guess
that's
right.
The key part.
There's a flaw. There is a total
justice,
flaw right there. Yeah.
But okay, so
it was real
if somebody felt that was justice, if they felt like that,
if it was
like
real
justice,
though,
maybe they'd be like, yeah, right. But
depending on what they did, right? There's a lot of variables,
The infinite, basically, is as many variables as you have the imagination to keep coming up with, basically, right?
Yeah.
But okay, so what we're still saying is that it's something to do now it's about interpreting, right? Now it's all about interpreting.
Yeah.
What is it you're interpreting that's making it beautiful, though? I want you to think, how is the interpretation? What is it about the interpreting?
The circumstances and the
let's go on to the next sentence and see if that helps explain it. I don't
Probably
think it
not.
will,
I think I fucked it up.
Are we basically done with it?
Hold on. No. Then there's the next interpretation of but it could also be flipped in a way that there's a still life oil.
Okay,
painting.
and we totally get that, and that's right on the spot. But we're repeating something. We're not getting out of it.
Yeah.
You're in a loop on something and you didn't burst out of it. Keep going.
Okay.
And it's a hard one. I'm saying I don't think anybody has. I think here's the dude who got it, right? So,
all right. But it could be flipped in a way that there is a still life oil painting of this bag of dicks, and it is incredibly well done. The color mixture, the composition, the way the paint is laid, an incredible work of art with the looks of intellectual beautification. But going back to the source of things, let's say this painting was done by a woman, and she got this bag of dicks from her previous boyfriends who did her no wrong. They simply just weren't into her.
Are we basically?
There's more, but
keep going on. Because we're just
this last part just gets story. It's like
stuck.
background.
Okay, so
and
we're
shit.
still basically then. So we never leave then the idea that it's an interpretation. You're interpreting something.
Yeah.
So what if you were able to interpret the history of the woman who like blah blah blah? That's what you're really saying, right?
Yeah.
So what if you were to see it as this beautiful painting, so what's making it beautiful as a painting? You're saying the harmony and all the rhythm and the color.
The intellect.
But what's making that beautiful?
Well, that's the intellect. That's
how. Can't just say that's the intellect.
The brain and
it's the intellect reaching
the
out
soul,
and touching it.
The soul filtering out through the brain.
The more poetic we get on this, the further away from the truth we're going to get. Oh. So what's really the beauty in that shit? What's so beautiful? What's beautiful about the painting of the bag of dicks? And we already realize now that whatever is beautiful about the painting of the bag of dicks can be equally beautiful about just the bag of dicks on its own too, if you interpret it further than if you just saw it as the painting.
Yeah.
Right? This is a key part, right? We're talking about it. So, you get this, right?
Yeah.
So I see the bag of, I either see the bag of dicks. Great example. What the fuck? But anyway, I see the bag of dicks, right? This is great chapter in the world's most fucked up book on philosophy, right? So I see the bag of dicks, and because I have a wild imagination, I instantly interpret the history of it, and I interpret it as a painting, and I interpret it like in a still life in a gallery, and how wild that would look. And so I'm finding all the notions that maybe are triggering some sort of beauty response in me. Okay, or I see the painting of a bag of dicks, and now I'm interpreting, oh, look at how well they mix their colors, and wow, look at that, it's so realistic, and whoa, they got the sheen on the bag, and you know what I mean? Like so good. And And it's not even it's not even the dicks anymore, right?
Yeah,
it's just the ability to capture something,
which
right?
is,
Doesn't even matter what it is. Could be a loaf of bread, could be a bag of dicks, right? Like, okay, so but both processes were they were anchored on the act of interpreting something.
Yeah.
Right? Interpreting.
Yeah.
Okay, now you've done enough now. So what is being interpreted? What is being interpreted for you to activate the beauty sensor? I'm putting it nice in a sentence for you to chew on now.
Yeah.
What is being interpreted for the beauty sensor to be activated? What is being interpreted for the beauty sensor to be activated? Say it out loud.
What is interpreting the beauty?
No.
What is it? Say it.
What is it? What do you? Okay, now you got me doing it wrong. What is being interpreted?
What is being interpreted
for your beauty sensor to activate?
For your beauty sensor to activate.
I want you to start thinking of that key term when you think about beauty now. It's about activation. That gets rid of all the prejudice. Realize that. That's rid of all the prejudice. Just think about activation. Don't worry about where it comes from. Who cares? We're not the only people that care about like those are all the scientists who are just trying to manipulate the world in evil, rotten ways, right?
Yeah.
It's what is being interpreted to make your beauty sensor go off, right? We're saying it's an interpretation of something, right? What is the thing that's being interpreted? When you say, I find that bag of dicks beautiful because I can imagine it as a photograph in a gallery. What is it you're interpreting? When you look at the painting and you're saying, I find that painting of a bag of dicks beautiful because it has so much harmony and rhythm and color theory going on.
Yeah.
What's going on underneath all those interpretations? What do they have in common? What do they have in common?
Shit, man.
You don't feel like, oh, damn, I can't get this. Because Plotinus couldn't get it. And I don't think the guy who wrote that new theory of beauty, I think he got it even less than Plotinus.
Is it like experience? Not even like this fucking...
What is it that experience is bringing to the interpretation that's making it beautiful? You're trying. It's good. What's important right now, you know what's funny? What's important right now isn't that you have an answer. What's important right now is, dude, your neurons, they're actually firing. They're actually they're dealing with abstract information in a badass way.
Yeah.
You're one of the lucky few. This is like a pearl for you, right? And you're doing it. You're sitting there. You're struggling. It's awesome, right? I'm not going to give you the answer because I think it's more important to let your brain start being in question mode, but in a really good version of it.
Yeah.
Right? And I'll give you my answer. And you know what? I don't know if my answer is the right one, but it's pretty damn. You know, when I douche it, I try and make it pretty Teflon. You know what I mean? I make it so like, well, they're going to have to try for 100 years to tear apart this one, right? So I think I came up with what's going on underneath all these things.
I kind of see what you're saying. It's just really
hard. I know.
Hard. It's hard
I'm leading you there. I'm trying to lead you there, but see if I can get you just close enough to the edge where you might spit it out, not even knowing like, whoa, is it this? And be like, that's the beginning. That's the beginning. Yeah. But you know, I don't expect that. That's for sure, right?
Yeah,
but you did. This is fantastic to even get here. This is good, right?
Yeah. It's just fucking. I was trying to describe shit and think of things differently.
You're like you don't notice yourself growing taller and taller, right? Yeah. But every once in a while you check on something, you realize, oh shit, or your parents do whatever. Oh, I grew a couple inches, right? But you never notice it, right?
Yeah.
That's what's going on right now with your intellect. Right, your soul right now, you don't even realize it. It's getting bigger and bigger. You can't feel it in any direct real way, but it is, right?
Is it like intuition or something like that? Like kind of like something where it's like
you know what I mean? Well, you're intuiting something in your interpretation. Yes. Yes. There's something that's going on beneath your conscious awareness of all the things you're interpreting. That's the key part, that there is, and then those are things that we start to call intuition, right? You're not consciously aware of something that you are interpreting underneath the interpretation itself. That's the key. That's the key.
Yeah.
So see, you are getting that intuition. It does have something to do with intuition. And at that point, like I said, who knows where the intuition's coming from? Is it conditioned? Is it genetic? Is it magic? Who fucking cares? All we're talking about is what activates the sensor. See, if we keep using that as a key phrase, we get rid of all of society's bullshit baggage that it wants to argue over, right?
Well, what activates the sensors, the vision or the experience?
No, it can be a smell, it can be a song, it doesn't have to be vision. The experience, you have to experience it to find beauty, but that's really not that rich.
So then would the senses be like an aspect of beauty? You can't experience beauty without the senses, right?
It's not that rich. When we talk about beauty, what we basically are already talking about is a way that we're perceiving something in a more heightened manner or in a more fulfilling or positive manner, whatever you want to use, right?
It's definitely because there's like the senses, and then there's the intellect that takes the senses and turns them into like ideas and thoughts and like crazy fucking like.
Stop making the duality between them. Just think they're the same thing. I know that sounds weird because you were so used to dualities, but just think of the intellect and the senses as the same thing. It's just part of the dial process, right?
Yeah.
Are you only focusing on the part that's coming in through the senses, or are you turning the dial the other way and focusing on what the information is doing once it comes into the senses and is processed, right? But you can't really have one without the other and be a human. You have to have the perceptions coming in, and you have to have the processors processing it. So instead of making the duality there, don't worry about that. That's not that important.
Yeah.
Just know that you have to have both to get to the level of beauty anyways. To get to the level of human.
Yeah.
So it's not, well, it's a tough one. Because once I explain it, it could you'd have to stretch it a little, but it could touch upon all these things. It's related to all these things, right? That's why I think it actually works. Because it does kind of fulfill all the slots, right? For something to work, it has to not have a contradiction in it if you really want it to work well, right? It has to kind of explain everything away, right?
Yeah.
Well, those are. But now I'm not gonna tell you though. Have you been recording the whole thing?
Picture this, I'm a bag of dicks. Put me to your lips. I am sick. I will punch your baby.